Coming up next on Arizona Horizon, we'll discuss a new report on how Arizona can become a fully vital and competitive player on the national stage. And a journalism professor writes a remarkable memoir about his own considerable challenges and those of his Down syndrome son. That's next on Arizona Horizon.
Arizona Horizon is made possible by contributions from the Friends of Eight, members of your Arizona PBS station. Thank you.
Good evening and welcome to Arizona Horizon. I'm Ted Simons. The Center for the Future of Arizona is out with a new report titled Vision 2025, Arizona Comes of Age. The report looks at what's needed in the next 10 years for Arizona to become a vital and competitive national player. Laddie Coor is the center's chairman and CEO. He joins us right now. Good to see you again.
Good to see you, Ted.
Okay. 2025, Arizona Comes of Age. Are we ready to become a fully vital and competitive player?
We have all of the elements. That's what caused us to choose this title. We've been working on seeing how we position our education, our infrastructure, all of the things we have. And as we stepped back, looked at what citizens said they want for the future, looked at our assets, we can put it together to make it happen. The question is, how do we do it? Who does it, and how do we get everybody engaged in making it happen? So it's both an observation, but an aspiration. And we have every confidence if all of us will join in this endeavor, we can make it happen.
So let me ask you, who does it? How do we do it?
I think it begins with an understanding that if you don't posit long-range goals, you're not going to make them happen. So thanks to the Gallup Arizona poll, we know what citizens want for the long range. So there they are, very clearly. Graduate our students from high school, college, and or career ready, measure them by national, international standards, keep increasing the education level of the state. That's one of the 8 that we keep on. So once we have that clear understanding, the trick is to make sure that leadership around the state and citizens around the state understand them, know what they mean, how they go about carrying them out, and then get us all working in the same direction.
You mentioned leaders. Do leaders understand what this report talks about, and is there the political will to follow some of these suggestions?
I have high confidence that a number of our leaders understand that. The governor spoke at the release of this report just a week ago and strongly endorsed the elements that are there. The question, and the leaders in the business community, we see a number of people who really say this is the right thing to do. Do we have the will to make it happen? That remains to be seen. We've not been doing so well the last few years.
Indeed. So what can be done to find that political will?
Well, let's start with education, because in this report, we brought our centers work together for not only the education, the Arizona we want, but the education we need. The two go together. So the more we increase education in the state, the more people who have a strong competitive ability to work in the economy, the more successful we're going to be. Everybody has a stake in that. So we start by saying, here's the goal, but every one of you has to make sure at your local school level that you understand what its finances are, you understand how well it's doing or not doing, and you do something about it. You not only get involved with your school in your own community, but you make sure that you get registered and vote. We had the lowest turnout in 50 years in the last primary. You know that, you've spoken about it here. We've got to do something about that, and it wouldn't take an awful lot. 1,000 additional people in any legislative district in the state will begin to make a difference.
But you mentioned, and again, the title is Arizona Comes of Age, and the idea of what Arizona wants to be, what Arizonans want Arizona to be. When there is such a consistent lack of involvement, a lack of a feeling of connection out there, does that become Arizona's MO? People can say all they want, but when they're acting a certain way, is that who we are?
It's an interesting thing that we've learned, that since statehood, through this current year, 2/3 of the Arizonans who lived here at any time over that 100+ years came from elsewhere. They chose to come here, but they came from elsewhere. And I know personally, having grown up here, that they were much more engaged, even though 2/3 of them came from elsewhere, than they are today. So it can happen. It did happen in an earlier era. We just have to find a way to make it happen now. And we think the best way to make it happen is for people to understand they have a stake in making these goals a reality.
How do you do that? How do you make people understand that this makes a difference? Because a lot of folks, they come out here to retire. They paid their taxes back in Michigan. They paid their taxes back in India. They don't want to be paying any more of that stuff. They think that they've already done their civic duty back east or Texas or California, wherever they came from. How do you get past that?
That's 16% of the population. The other 84% are looking to make sure they have a good, strong economy, that there are jobs there, that their children are educated properly so they can have those jobs. We have to find a way, community by community, to get them to understand they can play that role, and as they play that role, it will lift the entire process.
I know the report mentioned university, the bioscience corridor, among the positives, among the things that you think can grow and can develop.
That's all happened within the last decade. We weren't a major player there, and look what's happened there. There are a number of things that have happened that prove we can do it. Now the objective is to make sure we make direct and continuing steps in the future.
And as far as the education challenge, I know that you wrote as well that not enough well-educated folks are out there for the workforce. I mean, that's just a basic there, isn't it?
Absolutely a basic, and that's why among the programs we at our center have been undertaking is to get students targeted much more effectively for entry into college, entry into programs that lead to technical education where they can be eligible to enter the workforce. In other words, step by step by step to get an increasing number of people ready to do that.
You know, we've done a number of shows on just, Arizona's future here, and among those shows, the idea of rebranding Arizona, just getting out there with a different message or a different look. Do you think that's a good idea?
I think it's time to retrieve our brand. We've been a proud state for years. We knew who we were. We were able to pull together during tough times, from the Depression, with all of the activity that came with the Second World War. We made great strides. That's a brand that many of us know characterizes this state and has for years, and so we need to frame it and make sure everybody understands it in this era, and we think it can be done.
A better way to make everyone understand it is to understand how it was lost in the first place. What happened to that brand?
Well, I think we've grown very rapidly. I think it's been a number of factors of that kind. And we were moving along in a fairly constructive direction. Look at the part of the world I know best. Look at our universities. These universities are among the best in the nation, in the world. And then when the economy took a bounce, we somehow lost our grip in a way. So I think if we simply will recognize that it has been done in the past and it can be done in the future, we will accomplish it.
Very good. Good to have you here. Thanks for joining us.
My pleasure, Ted, as always.
Inside scoop on what's happening at Arizona PBS. Become an 8 Insider. You'll receive weekly updates on the most anticipated upcoming programs and events. Get the 8 Insider delivered to your email inbox. Visit azpbs.org to sign up today.
ASU journalism professor Tim McGuire has led a blessed and challenged life as a disabled dad helping raise a Down syndrome son. McGuire's story is told in a new memoir, Some People Even Take Them Home. Joining us now is Tim McGuire, the Frank Russell Chair for the Business of Journalism at ASU's Cronkite School of Journalism and Mass Communication. Welcome back to the show.
Good to see you again.
This is quite the read. I mean, this is a remarkable, when I say remarkable, this really is something here. Why did you do this? Why did you decide to expose? I mean, your life has been something, but still, you're writing a memoir, you're putting it all out there.
Putting it all out there. Because I believe there are some valuable lessons in there. I believe that the book, and I have found from the reaction, that people with any sort of struggle have identified heavily with the book. And from all sorts of life. People who've had terminal illnesses in their family. I've had 4 or 5 letters from gay men who said, that was my life.
Wow.
Trying to be accepted, trying to be normal. So I had hoped for that result. I thought in my story there were some things that were special, and I think we've tapped into that.
Was it difficult to write so personal a story?
Well, my late wife used to say that Tim would tell his deepest, darkest secrets to the postman. So I've always been pretty transparent. And so it wasn't really that difficult. It was difficult to put it in a cogent kind of presentation. And I learned a lot when I juxtaposed my life with that of Jason. As you read, Jason is quite a wonderful character with very few cognitive abilities, but he's incredibly savvy. And yet I found a lot of things he didn't want to be Down syndrome. The myth that Down syndrome folks are satisfied and comfortable, in my view, is a myth.
Interesting.
He, 3 times in his life, when he was 16, 18, and 21, he was just mighty ticked off that he was Down syndrome, and he thought he'd stop.
Yes, and those are very poignant moments. And I want to get to Jason, your son, in a second here. But describe your childhood. I mean, there was a point in the book where you said your parents tried not to pray for a miracle, but they always made it clear they'd accept one.
Oh, they went to places like St. Anne de Beaupré in Canada, and my mother now believes that she's gotten that miracle in my life, in the way I've been able to live my life and succeed in my life. But they wanted me to play, just as I did, wanted to play middle linebacker for the Detroit Lions, and that was never going to happen. I had 13 surgeries before I was 16 years old. I was in braces till I was 12. Practically every summer, with the exception of 1 or 2, I would go to the hospital for 2 weeks, pretty much alone, 65 miles from home. So all of those are shaping experiences. And I like to think that it made me who I was. Was I terribly ostracized? No. I was lucky to have 2 especially large and close friends who always looked after me, but you had to roll with the punches too. I remember being in 4th grade, and people say, you remember that? I do. I was in the hallway, and somehow it dawned on me that when I laughed, everybody was around me. And if I felt sorry for myself, I was alone.
Interesting.
And I vowed to laugh for the rest of my life.
That's remarkable for a 4th grader to understand that. Yeah. When did you understand that you were a little different?
Oh, I think I tell stories. I think there was a time when I was 7 years old and some kids were stealing grapes in the backyard across from mine, and they started taunting me. And I started to climb the fence I was going to go beat them up right. And I got my brace caught in the fence. And I think there was a slow dawning even as soon as that I wasn't going to beat anybody.
Well, I'll tell you what, it sounds like when you were in the 6th grade, acceptance came in the form of a gift, and you called it the greatest gift ever from your classmates there. And it was very heartwarming again because, you know, it had to have told you that you're all right.
And I was very paranoid about that. I was very close with my friends, and all of a sudden they were in little groups talking and plotting something, and I wasn't included. And it turned out that it was going to be my major surgery, where both feet were going to be operated and this wrist was going to be operated on. And they gave me a transistor radio for the summer.
Isn't that something?
And it was tremendous.
Okay, those challenges, how did they make you who you are? And are you who you are without those challenges?
The question's never been asked that way, Ted, and it's very good. I don't think so. I mean, I think we are all a sum of our journey. And that, when I realized, there's a point in the book, I was 43, and for the first time, I admitted on a document at work that I was disabled. And I had denied it up until that point. And at that point, and since then, I've come to understand how the disability shaped me and formed me. And no, I don't think I'm who I am. I think my desire to succeed, my understanding of how people operate and work. I led a newsroom of 400 people. You don't do that if you don't have some pretty good understanding of what makes people tick.
Indeed.
I learned that from my journey.
Yeah, and your journey took you to the pinnacle of your profession there with in the Minneapolis paper, and now you're obviously the chaired professor here. Quite the crew. You've met everyone. I mean, we can't even begin to count the number of people and talk about them. But let's get to Jason. Talk about the book's title, because that's real. It's hard to believe that the title comes from where it comes from.
When the doctor told us that Jason had Down syndrome, he looked at us and said, some people even take them home. And even has grown in capital letters in my head since then. But he clearly, they felt that they were pressuring people to take Down syndrome kids home, and he was doing quite the opposite.
Yeah.
He insinuated we were going to be kind of idiots for taking Jason home. And the whole premise of the book is I can't imagine a life without Jason. Jason was essential to our family. He has taught us all great things. His siblings, his parents. Jason has been incredible in our lives.
Compare his upbringing with yours, because we've talked about this before. I was very close to a family that had a retarded child. That's what we called it back then. He was retarded, and boy, that family, he couldn't get away with a thing. They made sure that he was responsible, and everything he was supposed to do, he did. Sounds like you were raised the same way.
I was raised the same way, and so was Jason. Jason has always had high expectations. From the time he was 6 months old, we started pushing the tongue back into his mouth, because the protruding tongue is a big issue. His mother taught him to high five rather than to hug. All things to make him more acceptable. Jason stood and talked to Bill Clinton for 10 minutes one time. And Clinton had a tough time understanding him, but he stayed engaged, and Jason behaved perfectly well.
But let's not sugarcoat this. He was, and probably still can be, a handful, especially these incidents where I couldn't help but laugh.
Oh, if you didn't laugh, you're not normal.
When he was he just ran.
He'd run.
He'd run forever.
He ran through China shops. He ran through department stores. One of the great stories that I love in the book is he took off from the front yard, and his sister is 2.5 years older than he is, and well, I guess only 2. And she has been his caretaker his entire life. When she met somebody when she was 4, somebody came to the house and she said, "Hi, I'm Tracy. This is Jason. He's down and I'm up." And that was always her view of life. Well, Jason ran and she took off to chase him, and she lost him, but she thought he went into a house. She goes up to the house and says, "Ma'am, is there a little boy here?" She said, "Yeah, he's up in my closet." The McGuires never understood why that woman couldn't protect the hostile occupation of her closet, but he just got a huge kick out of that.
And he
it
got
took 3 years to toilet train Jason.
Yeah. Oh, and but the chaos of the early, you do a very good job of, not all wine and roses here.
Not at all.
But do you see your parents differently after having raised Jason?
No, I've got to answer no to that, just because I always think I understood my parents. And an interesting thing happened. When I was showing this to an agent, the agent said, "Well, Tim, I got to tell you, I think your parents were cruel to you."
Oh, my.
Well, I was just outraged. I was absolutely outraged. He didn't get it because they were not cruel to me. They wanted me to stand on my own. And if all the other kids were walking to school, Tim was going to walk to school. And I think that's the saving grace. I mean, I've never looked for a favor or a handout, or I think they were tremendous to me. Now, my wife and I, my late wife, you may be coming to that.
The next question is going to be, who is Jean and what's her story?
But she was very strong in solving problems, but she didn't like that we're going to tough it out. And so often when I'd say, well, he's got to tough it out, she didn't have that same feeling. We never left him alone in a hospital overnight. Hell, I've probably spent 75 nights alone in a hospital. And so there was some tension there. To answer your question, Jean was very clever. Jean and I were married for 39 years, and I completed the book. And then last year, Jean died. And so I went back and wrote the last chapter. And Jason is very prominent in that chapter, as you saw, because he was very wise. As we interred Jean, I went up and touched her urn, and I broke out into uncontrollable sobs. And Jason approached me, put his hand on my shoulder, and turned me slightly and said, "Daddy, Mommy is here, and she's here." He brought an incredible wisdom to that. He is very wise.
Those moments are really strong, among the most poignant moments in the book. And Jean, I thought Jean's, the fact that she kept a diary the first week of his life, to look at those, that must be very interesting to look back on.
Oh, it's fascinating.
Yeah.
If she had kept that up, that would have been the book.
Right. But let me ask you, we're running out of time here, and the humor and irreverence in here, it's all over the place. I mean, it's a tearjerker, but it makes you laugh out. That's why I find it so remarkable. When were there times when you're writing and you go, this is too sad. We've got too many sad stories in a row, or we've got too many irreverent things in a row. People aren't going to get this, or think I'm making fun when I shouldn't be making fun.
No, this is raw Tim and Jason. This is, I really didn't. Now, some of the language I worked on, I mean, you used the word, I mean, we lived with the word retarded throughout Jason's childhood, or in Jason's life. It is not accepted anymore. But in 1987 or 77, you wouldn't have used any other word. It would have been inauthentic. So I struggled with some of those words, but the humor, the pathos, the irreverence is all pretty much the way we lived our life.
Well, it's a remarkable life. I know real quickly, about 30 seconds left. One of the quotes, we come home to our true and full self. I think Richard Rohr was that one. But if you come home, are you there?
Yes, Gene's passing changed all of that. But you will notice I got married last month.
Well, congratulations.
I've built a new life with Candace, and so resilience reigns.
It does. Well, again, congratulations on this book. Great piece of work. It's good to have you here.
Good to be here. Thank you, Ted.
Thank you. And that is it for now. I'm Ted Simons. Thank you so much for joining us. You have a great evening.
Arizona Horizon is made possible by contributions from the Friends of 8, members of your Arizona PBS station. Thank you.